The flames devoured everything in their path, swallowing walls, furniture, and memories as if they were mere paper. The fire roared louder than any cry for help, and Anna's eyes reflected the despair of loss. That house, once filled with laughter and tears, was now a stage for destruction. The heat was suffocating, the smell of smoke burned her throat, and it felt like nothing would survive that night. Anna thought her life had ended there, scattered among the ashes carried by the wind. But my friends, it's in these scenes of ruin that something extraordinary can happen. Sometimes hope is born where we least expect it, in the silence after the chaos. Hello, friends of the Tales of Faith channel. I'm Elias, and I invite you to join me on this emotional journey of pain, resilience, and faith. This is Anna's story, a woman who lost everything in a fire but found among the ashes a new reason to live. Get ready, because this story might touch the deepest parts of your heart. Before we dive in, let me ask you, if in an instant you watched your entire material life vanish in minutes, how would you react? Would you be consumed by despair, or would you find strength in something greater than yourself? Anna didn't have time to prepare. On a freezing winter night in rural America, while the streets were blanketed in bitter cold, her house was engulfed in flames. By dawn, nothing remained but rubble and smoke. What she didn't know was that in that emptiness, God was about to write a new chapter in her life. When the sun rose, illuminating the ruins of Anna's home, it felt like the world was mocking her pain. Where windows once let in light, now only blackened holes in charred walls remained. The smell of smoke lingered in the air, and every step in the yard was a cruel reminder of what was lost. Clothes, family photos, furniture built with hard-earned money, even the Bible that always sat open in her living room, everything had been claimed by the fire. Anna looked around and saw nothing but ashes. It felt like her very soul had been reduced to the same. Tears fell unbidden, and the emptiness was overwhelming. "What now? Where do I go? What's left of me?" she whispered, her voice nearly swallowed by the dawn's silence. There were no answers. Only the distant sound of fading sirens lingered in her memory. Neighbors looked on with pity. Some approached with clothes, food, or hugs, but nothing could fill the void in her chest. Her life had been built within that house, and now it seemed like everything was over. As she walked among the charred remains, Anna knelt near what used to be her living room. There, among the debris, she found a scorched piece of wood, still carrying the sharp smell of fire. It was just a splinter, but to her it symbolized the fragility of existence. For the first time, she felt utterly alone in the world. And I ask you, dear listener, imagine if something like this happened to you, destroying in minutes everything you spent years building. How would you react? Would you surrender to despair? Or would you try to find the strength to start over? Anna had no strength left. In that moment, all she could do was cry. But what she didn't yet know was that even among ashes, hope can bloom like a forgotten seed in the earth. Part 3. The Weight of Grief. In the days following the fire, Anna sank into a deep silence. She stayed temporarily at a kind neighbor's house, but her heart seemed to wander among the ashes of her old home. Each morning was a struggle, opening her eyes to realize there was no home, no routine, nothing left of what once gave her life meaning. The clothes she wore weren't hers, the bed she slept in wasn't hers, even the coffee she drank tasted foreign, as if it constantly reminded her that her identity had been stripped away by the fire. Anna's grief wasn't just for material loss. She felt she had lost herself. Who am I without my home? Who am I without my memories? She asked in silent prayers. Nights were even harder. She woke up startled, hearing in her mind the crackle of burning wood and the crash of the collapsing roof. Her heart raced and tears came uncontrollably. Her body was exhausted, but her soul was even more so. People around her offered support, but no one could reach the depths of the pain she carried. Her faith, once steadfast, now flickered like a candle nearly snuffed out by the wind. And you? Have you ever lived through a moment when your faith wavered? When everything seemed meaningless and the future was just a shadow? If so, you know how hard it is to believe that something good can still emerge from pain. Anna was right there, lost, broken, without the strength to rise again. But the incredible thing is that God works in mysterious ways. When we think it's all over, He plants invisible seeds of hope that bloom in their own time. And little by little, that seed would begin to awaken in Anna's heart. On a cold morning, as Anna walked alone through the wreckage of her former home, her heart heavy, something unexpected caught her eye. Amid the ashes and charred concrete, an object lay half buried. Her hands trembled as she brushed away the debris, and to her astonishment, there was the scorched cover of her Bible. The fire had consumed nearly everything, but somehow that book, so precious to her, had survived. The cover was singed, some pages blackened, but it could still be opened. Anna flipped through it slowly, and her eyes filled with tears when she found an intact passage in Psalm 34. "The Lord is close to the broken-hearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." It was as if those words were alive, whispering directly to her wounded heart. In that moment, something shifted inside her. The pain was still there, the tears still flowed, but for the first time since the fire, a small spark of hope began to glow. She clutched the Bible to her chest, took a deep breath and whispered, "Maybe my life isn't over. Maybe there's something beyond the ashes." It wasn't certainty, but it was a start, a thread of hope, like the first light of dawn after a long night. And I ask you, dear listener, if you were in her shoes, finding a sign in the midst of loss that God is still near, would you believe you're not alone? Would you let that sign renew your faith? Anna decided to keep that Bible as her most precious treasure. It wasn't just a book rescued from the fire. It was living proof that, even when all seems lost, God's presence can reveal itself in unexpected ways. And that was the first step toward her transformation. The days that followed were still tough, but something in Anna had changed. That Bible, rescued from the flames, became her constant companion, a reminder that there was still purpose amid the pain. One day, while walking down the main street of her small town, still wearing donated clothes, Anna met the local pastor, a humble man named Michael, known for his warm heart. He approached her, took her hands and said firmly, "Anna, I don't know what you're feeling, but I know God hasn't finished your story. What the fire destroyed, He can restore." Those words cut deep. She could barely respond, letting the tears fall. Pastor Michael invited her to Sunday service. Anna hesitated. The pain was still raw, and her faith was fragile. But remembering the Bible that survived the flames, she felt that the invitation might not just be from a man, but perhaps an answer from God Himself. That Sunday, despite her heavy heart, Anna went. She sat in the back pews, shrinking into herself, as if not wanting to be seen. During the worship, she couldn't sing, but she felt something different in the air. A warmth, compassionate glances, hugs that didn't judge, only welcomed. For the first time since the fire, she didn't feel alone. And you? Have you ever experienced an unexpected embrace like that, from people who might not know your full pain, but were used to bring relief to your heart? Anna left that service without all the answers, but with something precious, a spark of hope, now fueled not just by the word she found in the ashes, but by the love of people willing to walk alongside her. The morning after the service, Anna woke with a different feeling. The emptiness was still there, but so was a flicker of courage. She realized that if she kept standing still among the ashes, she'd never discover what God could still do in her life. So, she decided to take small steps, even if she didn't have the strength to run. The first was accepting the practical help offered by neighbors and church members. It wasn't easy. Anna had always been independent, used to caring for others. But this time, she was the one who needed care. The community rallied around her. Someone brought new clothes, another offered used furniture, and a family even cleared space in their garage for Anna to store donations. Small gestures that together wove a net of hope. Amid so much pain, she began to see the kindness that blooms in hearts willing to love. One afternoon, Pastor Michael stopped by her temporary home and handed her a box of art supplies. "Anna, I remember you always talking about how you love to paint. Maybe this can help ease your soul." She was speechless. It had been years since she'd picked up a brush, but opening that box stirred something within her. Perhaps this was a way to express what she couldn't put into words. And I ask you, dear listener, if a small opportunity for a fresh start, simple but meaningful, was placed before you, would you have the courage to embrace it even while still wounded? That night, with brushes in hand and her Bible open beside her, Anna began to paint, not the ashes of her tragedy, but colors of hope. Each stroke seemed to mend the cracks in her heart. She was slowly discovering that rebuilding wasn't just about raising walls again, but letting God restore her very soul. In that borrowed little room, Anna spent hours in front of makeshift canvases. It was no longer just painting, it was an intimate dialogue between her and God. Each brushstroke became a sigh, each color a silent cry. When she painted shades of gray and black, it was as if she were pouring out all the pain of the fire. But when, almost without realizing, she began using yellow, blue, and green, something within her blossomed. Those colors represented life, hope, new beginnings. One day, upon finishing a canvas, she noticed she had painted a sunlit field with a small tree sprouting among scorched rocks. Anna smiled through her tears. It was the perfect translation of her soul, broken yet still capable of blooming. Without planning it, she began to see that her art wasn't just for herself. It could touch others who were also facing invisible pain. When she showed her first paintings to Pastor Michael, he was moved. "Anna, this isn't just talent, it's ministry. God is using your pain to create beauty. Have you ever thought this might be the purpose he's revealing to you?" Those words resonated deeply. For the first time since the tragedy, Anna began to see that her suffering might not be the end, but the start of something greater. And I ask you, dear listener, have you ever had a moment when your pain transformed into something that could bless others? Have you realized that even your wounds can become a source of hope for those in need? Each of Anna's paintings was, at its core, a silent prayer, and those colorful prayers were about to reach hearts far beyond her own. Anna's paintings, born as a private refuge from her pain, began to take on a life of their own beyond the four walls where they were created. One day, Pastor Michael invited her to bring a few to the church. Hesitant, she framed 3 canvases simply and brought them to the community hall. She expected little, maybe just polite glances, but to her surprise, people gathered and stood in silence before the images. An elderly woman who had lost her husband months earlier let tears fall and said, "This painting speaks exactly to what I feel. It's like someone understood my soul." Those words hit Anna like a revelation. Her art, born from fire and ashes, was becoming a mirror for others' pain. Soon, people began seeking her out, asking her to share more of her work. Some wanted copies, others just wanted to hear the story behind each color. Anna started to realize this wasn't just talent or a hobby, it was purpose. Her pain was turning into comfort for others. The fire that destroyed her home was now kindling hope in wounded hearts. And you? Have you ever considered that your suffering could become a channel for healing others? That what seemed like tragedy could, in God's hands, become a testimony? Anna still faced difficult nights, still cried remembering what she'd lost. But each time someone was moved by her paintings, she felt a gentle whisper from God. "See, my daughter, nothing was in vain. The ashes weren't the end. They became the soil where something she never imagined could bloom." The impact of Anna's paintings began to spread beyond the small church. One day, Pastor Michael pulled her aside and said, "Anna, your story needs to be told. Not just in paintings, but in words. People need to hear how God sustained you through the ashes." She froze. Public speaking had never been her strength, and the idea of sharing her pain with strangers felt overwhelming. But something inside whispered that it might be time to take this step. The following Sunday, the church was packed. Anna's heart raced as she walked to the pulpit, carrying one of her most striking paintings, the tree sprouting among scorched rocks. With trembling hands, she took a deep breath and began, "Everything I had was destroyed by fire. I thought my life was over. But among the ashes, I found something the fire couldn't consume, hope in God." As she spoke, the words flowed as if from a source she ascensión de texto para o inglés she didn't even know she possessed. She spoke of the pain, the loneliness, the discovery of her Bible among the rubble, and how the colors in her paintings had become prayers. As she shared, eyes filled with tears and hearts opened in silence. When she finished, the church rose to their feet, applauding, not as a performance, but as an act of gratitude for being touched by the truth of her story. And I ask you, dear listener, if you had the chance to turn your pain into a voice of hope, would you have the courage to stand and share? Or would you choose to stay silent, keeping to yourself what could change lives? Anna stepped down from the pulpit a different person. She no longer felt just a survivor. She felt part of something greater, someone called to inspire others. After that service, Anna's story spread like wildfire, but this time a fire that illuminated rather than destroyed. Someone recorded her testimony and shared it on social media. Within days, the message reached people in nearby towns and even other states. Comments poured in. "I lost my husband and thought there was no way out. Your story gave me strength." Another said, "Thank you, Anna, for reminding me that God is still with me, even when everything feels ruined." Anna was stunned by the response. She didn't see herself as anyone special, just an ordinary woman who had faced tragedy. But she realized the power of hope doesn't lie in the speaker, but in the one who sustains the message. God. She was invited to share her story at community gatherings, schools, and even a local radio program. Each time she spoke, she felt less burdened and more free. The pain was still there, but it was now being used to bring life. One of the most powerful moments came when a young woman, after hearing her, ran to Anna and hugged her, sobbing, "I was about to give up on life, but today I decided to try again." In that moment, Anna understood that nothing she had been through was in vain. The fire had consumed her home, but it couldn't extinguish the purpose born from it. And you? Have you ever stopped to think that your pain might also carry seeds of hope for someone else? That, like Anna, you could be a channel of comfort, even in your own fragility? Anna pressed forward, no longer as a victim of tragedy, but as a living witness that from ashes, hope can bloom. Months had passed since the night the flames changed Anna's life forever. She no longer cried every day, though the scars of memory lingered. But slowly, a truth became clear. Her life hadn't ended in the ashes. It was just beginning in a new way. An unexpected invitation confirmed this. A local Christian organization asked her to speak at a retreat for women who had also faced deep losses. At first, Anna hesitated. She still saw herself as someone rebuilding, not ready to lead others. But deep down, she knew she couldn't say no. That night, in front of dozens of women, Anna shared her story with an open heart. She didn't hide the pain or soften the tragedy. She spoke of the tears, the sleepless nights, the feeling of abandonment. But she also spoke of the Bible rescued from the ashes, the paintings that became prayers, and the people touched by her art. As she spoke, she saw in the women's eyes the same pain she had felt. When she finished, holding her favorite painting, the tree blooming among scorched rocks, she said, "If God can make a tree sprout from ashes, he can also make hope rise in you." The silence that followed was broken by sobs and embraces. Women approached, some kneeling for prayer, others simply holding Anna's hand as if finding a lighthouse in the dark. There, Anna fully understood. This was her new mission. The fire had taken her home, but it had given her a purpose, to be a witness that hope never dies. And I ask you, dear listener, have you discovered the purpose hidden behind your pain? Perhaps what hurt you most is exactly what God will use to impact lives. That night at the retreat, when Anna returned to the small room where she was staying, she knelt before the Bible she always carried. She looked at its fire-scarred cover and smiled, moved. It was as if those physical scars told the same story her soul now carried. Wounds, yes, but also victory. For the first time since the tragedy, she didn't feel like a survivor just trying to start over. She felt called, chosen, part of a plan beyond her wildest dreams. Months later, Anna organized a small charity exhibition of her paintings. The theme was simple but powerful: hope among the ashes. People from various cities came to see her work and hear her story. Each canvas was paired with a brief message of faith, and the impact was so great that she received invitations to expand her work. Anna's life was no longer defined by what the fire destroyed, but by what God had rebuilt within her. At its core, the lesson she learned was clear: when all seems lost, God is still enough. Hope isn't the absence of pain, but the certainty that there's life beyond the ashes. And that truth wasn't just for Anna, but for everyone willing to believe. And I ask you, friend of Tales of Faith, have you been through moments when everything seemed to crumble? If so, remember Anna's story. Your pain may still be raw, but don't forget, even in the deepest silence, God still speaks. Even in the most scorched soil, he can make hope bloom. Anna's story reminds us of Isaiah 61:3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. And Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the broken-hearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Just as Anna found a new reason to live after tragedy, these verses show us that God specializes in turning ruins into restoration, pain into purpose, tears into testimonies. He doesn't waste suffering. Let's pray together. Lord, thank you because, even in the ashes of life, you give us hope. Transform our pain into purpose, our wounds into testimonies, and may we be a light to others, still walking in darkness. In Jesus' name, amen. May this story strengthen your faith. And now I ask, what would you do if you were in Anna's place? Share your reflection in the comments, subscribe to the Tales of Faith channel, and stay with us for more stories that inspire. Until the next video, God bless you.